With me today to share their reporting and their insights, Karen Demerja with the Washington Post, CNN, Shimon Prokopez, CNN legal analyst and former federal prosecutor Shan Wu, and Kim Whaley, whose legal work includes being a former member of the White House Independent Counsel. Let me start with you, Shimon, because you've spent months and months and months on this investigation. We have not been independently able to confirm some of the details here. The key one being that they say they have documents to back this up. It does track what we've seen in some of the court filings, but it takes it to a special point, if you will, in saying they have documentary evidence that the president and people around the president were aware Cohen was going to lie to Congress and were part of getting him to lie to Congress.
Right, and that's what makes this so stunning, that this is just not the word of Michael Cohen. We've had these kinds of stories before, and it's usually comes from the mouth of Michael Cohen. This is much different. This is on a completely different level. The idea that there are texts and emails from the Trump organization, that there have been other witnesses who've come before Mueller to substantiate some of this, is certainly something that we've never seen before.
So we have, in any of these developments, we have two conversations. One's political and one's legal. Politically, one would think it would be the interest of the President of the United States, who's in a very difficult moment because of other things happening anyway during his presidency, and then he has this cloud. Politically, you would think if this is not true, we would have had a statement either from the president or from his lawyer or from his press secretary saying the president categorically denies this. He never, nor did anyone around him ever, tell Michael Cohen to lie to Congress. This is false. We don't have that statement. Is there a legal reason? Is there, because you know the Mueller investigation is going on, is there some legal reason that even if you were 100% convinced this is false, that you would not put out that statement? Or does the fact that we don't have that statement hours after this report hit, curious?
It is curious. I think there are two things at play here. First, as a lawyer, it's like a physician, do no harm. You don't want to put some position out there that later you think may be undercut. That's going to hurt the client. And this is a situation where they can never get their story straight because the client constantly changes it. So caution makes sense. But really importantly, that Buzzfeed story references that lawyers close to the administration had been involved in the preparation. So folks may be quiet because they're afraid of their own liability right now.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about this, I mean, we can say we don't know for sure. You said you couldn't corroborate this, but as was mentioned, the special counsel did indicate in filings that both Manafort and Cohen had been in communications with the White House. So there's reason to believe that this is accurate. I think I agree with Shan that given that the president and the White House shifts its stories, it's possible people are being very cautious. But knowing Trump himself, that's what's unusual, that he's coming out and saying it didn't happen.
I just want to be very clear about this because you wait and you watch the responses, and they're saying Michael Cohen's a liar. That's true. That's true. Michael Cohen is not the best witness. Bob Mueller would never bring a case with Michael Cohen as his only witness. He would have to have backup witnesses and backup documentation, as we learned from the Manafort trial and separate credibility issues and the like. But there's no legal reason the president cannot issue a statement saying this did not happen. Specifically address the allegation as opposed to Michael Cohen's a liar. There's no legal reason.
Unless he's worried about supporting additional perjury.
Right. Unless there's a very big legal reason, which is
unless there's the reason.
True, right, exactly.
Unless there's the reason.
In which case you wouldn't want to go and then be perjuring in open forum to basically say this never happened. I mean, look, at this point, I think what you've got is everybody in D.C. leaping on this story now to try to corroborate it, to try to see if it's true, whether you're talking about other news outlets or everybody on Capitol Hill that is expecting Michael Cohen to come down in 2.5 weeks to testify both in open and behind closed doors. I think everybody's scrambling to look for these corroborating documents and interviews as well to figure out if there's substance here, because it seems like there's a lot of substance behind Michael Cohen if the story is true.
And it is important to say if true. We need to do more reporting. That's very important to say if true, because this could cost. If this is true, the president's going to lose his job. If this is true, that is the thing.
Historically, it's a beeline to impeachment, right? For both Nixon as well as Clinton, and people have made that distinction in private conversations with me. Listen, we don't have suborning perjury, we don't have clear obstruction and asking witnesses to lie. If we've crossed that line, I think people on both sides of the political spectrum, from the legal standpoint, has to say that this bears on high crimes and misdemeanors.
And that's why, as the Hill investigations continue, it's going to be really interesting to see how the Republicans start to creak and if they shift. And if you see little coming to Jesus moments with some of the people who have been stalwart defenders of the president, because they're going to have to take votes to impeach if this.
Let's keep
nobody's getting to that
as you well know, from the private statements from Republicans are very different, from many Republicans, are very different from the public statements of Republicans. But they want, and they deserve to see the proof. We'll come back to that in a minute. I want to just show the parallels here. This is from Buzzfeed's news. The sources said Trump and his children, Ivanka and Donald Trump Jr., received regular, detailed updates about the real estate development from Cohen. whom they put in charge of the project. And in the Mueller criminal information against Cohen, we do know this. Cohen discussed the status and progress of the Moscow project with individual one, that's the president, on more than 3 occasions. Cohen claimed to the committee, and he briefed family members of individual one within the company about the project. So it does track. It's sort of the next step, if you will, if you look at it. So this is not out of the blue.
No, and I think to the question of the credibility of Cohen here, one thing that's important to realize is, as Shimon pointed out, there's other evidence that sounds like he was confronted with before he came up with the statement. It's not like he's some jailhouse snitch making things up just to help himself, but also seasoned prosecutors have, in essence, vouched for his credibility at this point. At his sentencing, Mueller's people said he's done a good job, he's been credible with what he told us, and the Southern District did not attack that. They attacked his former actions as being illegal, but they didn't go after him saying you haven't given credible information.
What's interesting, John, if we go back to the Southern District, when they did the plea agreement and the filings, they implicated the president in that crime, right?
The campaign finance.
In the campaign finance. When Mueller files his plea and the charges against Michael Cohen for lying to Congress, they don't take that step in their filing. They don't implicate the president. They never say Michael Cohen was directed to lie by the president.
Right.
I think that could be telling for us. That's why I think there are still a lot of questions about this story, because why wouldn't Mueller, if they had the goods at that point, there could be a reason why Mueller chose not to put that in and not use that strong language as the Southern District did in their filing. It's a question that I certainly have been asking, and I have found interest.
I think part of it, if you talk to people close to him, not people who know him, not people close to the investigation, they say that he's an institutional guy. This is the President of the United States. He's going to do it all at once, not drib drab, but it's a great point. You should look at it. I just want to come back to one more thing here. Buzzfeed reports, quote, the special counsel's office learned about Trump's directive for Cohen to lie to Congress through interviews with multiple witnesses from the Trump organization and internal company emails, text messages, and a cache of other documents. Cohen then acknowledged those instructions during his interviews with that office. Now, again, in the Mueller sentencing memo for Cohen, it touches on some of this. The information provided by Cohen about the Moscow project in these proffer sessions is consistent with and corroborated by other information obtained in the course of the special counsel's office investigation. So they make clear they have backup. Forgive me, Cohen testified on September 19, 2017. That was in the works for a while. Everybody involved knows about this investigation at that point for well over a year. Mm-hmm. Texts, emails, documents. I guess we will never learn from Oliver North. Is that the point here?
Well, it's like Rick Gates in the Manafort trial. I mean, they had all kinds of information that backed up what the allegations were. So the fact that Rick Gates himself was a criminal didn't sway the jury into basically walking away. And we have, if this is the case, this is going to be an easy, I think, factual thing to lay down, predicates to lay down. Unlike the campaign finance, which the argument's been that's a squishy crime. It's not a real crime. This idea of collusion / corruption, quid pro quos. This is stuff I think it's easier to get around. If they have emails that make these requests, that's going to be tough, I think, for Republicans and Democrats both to sidestep.
And you just had Bill Barr, the nominee for the new Attorney General, on the Hill today and being grilled about what counts as obstruction of justice. And he basically got backed into a corner to say this is it.
Klobuchar, yeah.
Not just Klobuchar, Graham too, when he was reiterating it. And so you have that right there where you've got the person who's in charge of overseeing Mueller, if he gets confirmed, which seems likely, saying this is that bad thing that I was saying you can't do. That's problematic if Republicans are going to try to break with that then on top of everything else, their natural inclination towards being loyal to the president.
Again, we'll get more on this as we talk ahead. Some Democrats are saying the special counsel should show his cards now if he has such damning information. We'll talk about that. The president clearly has an innocent until proven guilty, but it's striking that the statements have not addressed the specifics. More on this as we come on.